Okay, so thank you everyone. Welcome to the orientation for human communication. I'm going to walk through the course. I'm going to answer any questions people have and just basically kind of give you the lay of the land of how the course is organized and what are the expectations. I started doing these orientations about 6-7 years ago. And I found that they're really helpful for me to get to know you, for you to get to know me, and also to understand the expectations of this course. Many of you have probably taken online classes before, but this class is a little different because it requires some speeches and communication. And so as such, one of the things that I really encourage you to do is to take advantage of the live sessions that I offer. There's 3 other opportunities to do things that require you to do them in a group. We have a group of activity, and we have 2 live speeches, an informative speech and a persuasive speech. And I'm going to walk through how you sign up for those and answer any questions you have about those assignments and others. So I'm going to go ahead and start screen sharing just to show you how the class works. So when you log into the main website for 4Cs, to get to our class, you just click Moodle. But before we go there, I want to show you some stuff because some of you may or may not be aware that you actually have a Zoom account, and you may use this Zoom account to attend our meeting like we have now just by taking the link. But you can start a Zoom meeting on your own, and you can record that Zoom meeting on your own, and that'll become important later when and if you decide to record your speeches and give your speeches on your own instead of attending the session that I provide. And that's why I'm stopping right now just to click on that, because that link right there, that Zoom link, I'll come back to that later and we'll talk about how you would do that on your own. Okay, but for now, let's go ahead and go to our class. This is our class Moodle page. All of our sessions when we meet will be using the same link. So no need to kind of worry about, oh, do I have the right link? It's always going to be this link, and it'll be just as easy as that. There are 3 activities that will be taking place, as I mentioned, in which I'd like you to sign up for a session. But I recommend that you go ahead and sign up for it using this link right here. And what'll happen when you do that is it will open up the Sign Up Genius link. There, you'll notice that for this group activity, there's no cap. So as many people can sign up for any of these sessions as possible. So you can sign up for the 2 to 3, 3:30 to 4:30, or the 7 to 8 p.m. If you cannot make it to that session, never fear. That does not mean you can't attend or do a group activity. You'll have to do an alternative group activity. However, I do encourage you, if you can, to participate live. It's fun, it's easy, and it teaches group processes pretty well. The informative speeches, a lot of people have and share apprehension about communication, and speeches can be slightly terrifying. The good news is that I work with you knowing that ahead of time, and this class really is designed to help people maybe not overcome it. Sometimes people do, and that's great, but come up with coping strategies, because I don't try to minimize your concerns. I recognize that for some of you, speeches are really not your thing, and they never will be. But I'm very proud to say that when students take this class, they learn techniques for dealing with that apprehension that get them through the speeches. And in some cases, they learn that they actually enjoy giving speeches. Maybe you're not that person, maybe that's not an aspiration for you, but it's definitely something that I've seen a lot of students come through this class having that experience. So we work with you, and please don't ever hesitate to reach out to me if you're finding that you're struggling with that, because I have lots of resources that it can provide to you. The first thing I want to say is that a lot of the research out there about communication apprehension and speech nervousness says that one of the best immediate techniques to use is to look at communication and speeches not as a performance, but as a communication event. And so that's really where I come from, is we're looking at this. It's not a performance. You're not being evaluated on the ums and ahs. That's a very, very small part of your grade. The biggest part of your grade is, were you effective at talking and giving a speech about something that you are passionate about? Like what? So focusing on the topic, not you. And that is a really cathartic experience for people to realize that when they have something to say, and that thing that you have to say is more important than you can overcome so much. And so really the trick here is, let's help you find your voice and find those topics about which you are passionate that make it possible for you to give a speech, regardless of how you feel about public speaking as an activity. All right, so finding the link for the informative speeches, you'll notice it's the same Sign Up Genius. It looks a little different. The biggest thing about it is that there are limited slots. So the 1:15 to 2:15, you can already see there's already 5 to 6 of people's slots filled. So if that's a time period you'll want to sign up sooner rather than later. There's more room at the 3 to 4:15 and the 7 to 8 p.m. If by any chance you're like, contact me because you're like, oh no, that was the spot I wanted, it's full, please let me know, because I do have a little wiggle room. We can fit an extra person or two in a spot. Never fear, but I do want to be able to maintain. That's why I stopped the cap at 6 people, because I can fit a 7th if I need to. And also it's something that we can work out. Maybe I can get somebody to swap with you or not. But last speech, those are your persuasive speeches. And link is the same. You click the link, you come to the Sign Up Genius link, and you'll see the same time frames. You'll start to recognize there's a theme here, right? One of the fun things about that is that we actually kind of create these micro communities. You'll notice that if you sign up for 1:15 and that's a time that works for you, you'll start to see the same people at that time zone and time frame. And so we really have small mini communities within this class that make it, I think, a little bit less daunting to give these performance / speeches to each other, because you start to really bond and become really aware of each other that way. So in all of these cases, when you give speeches or the group activity, those are all going to be done over Zoom, and you will fulfill your requirement for the class to have a live audience. However, if you are not able to make it for whatever reason, or if you prefer to give your speech to a different audience, then what you need to do is you need to go to Zoom and you need to record your speech. Now, you can record it and upload it to YouTube if you're technologically proficient, that's fine. You can also, however, come to Zoom and sign in. You're going to sign in using the same sign in as you use for your 4Cs account. And then you'll start a meeting, and then you need to record that meeting to the cloud. You can invite people to the meeting on your Zoom at the bottom of your Zoom. If you are hosting a meeting, down under participants, there's a little link that says invite. And if you click that invite link, you can actually it says copy invite link. You just copy that, click it. It's now copied, it's saved, it's memorized by the computer. You go to your email, you paste that link, and you can email it to anyone. So let's say you have some friends who are not attending 4Cs, or you have family members. You can actually have your speeches done with people outside of the class. You don't have to actually give your speeches to just people in the class. So if your schedule is some kind of wonky schedule and you're like, I want to give my speech at 11 o'clock at night because that's the only time I can do it, as long as you have 4 other people who can watch that speech on Zoom, and you can record that and show them. So you want to do the gallery view, and you want to send me the link. Let me go ahead and share my syllabus, and we can talk about it a little bit. One of the things that I really want to encourage you to do is to read some of the testimonials. People really do share that they learned a lot and they felt like they got a lot out of this experience. There's also, in addition to the orientation at the beginning of the semester, there's this PRSA pre and post survey. And I do want you to make sure everybody does both the pre and the post survey. It is worth 5% of your grade, which may not sound like a lot, but if you don't do it, that's a 0. So let's say you had a 95, you subtract 5 points, that's now a 90. So your grade literally went from an A to an A minus simply because you didn't take this survey twice. So you do this twice. You do this once at the beginning of the semester and once at the end of the semester. Why? This survey assesses you in 4 areas. You're self-rating yourself, basically. You're saying in 4 areas: in public speaking, in communication interpersonally, in communication in groups, and then how you feel about conversations. And you get to see your progress. Here's a big caveat I just want to share. That survey, the lower the score, the better. So if you get a 56, you did not fail. A 56 is actually a very good score. That means that you are fairly comfortable in most areas of communication. The higher the score doesn't mean that you've passed or failed. It's an assessment. It's not a grade, right? So if you get like a 98, what that tells me is that you have some pretty strong apprehension in one or more of the areas I just mentioned. So you might be somebody who's really nervous about public speaking, or you might be somebody who's really nervous about public speaking and conversations. That is information. It's helpful for me, but it's also helpful for you because it's validating for you to go, yeah, I have some concerns. And guess what? Compared to other people, because this is a nationwide survey they've been doing for decades, compared to other people, yes, you do have a pretty high apprehension. That is not a bad thing. That is an assessment that lets you know where you are and where your comfort level is. And for you to be gentle with yourself and not expect too much, but at the same time, there is some incredible opportunity for growth. I have had students who have dropped 60 points after taking this class. So you decide, what are your goals? What are you looking to get out of this class? If you are willing to work on it, you can overcome some of the apprehensions you've had in your life. I'm here to tell you, I've had students who gave, in a non-virtual environment, gave their first speech facing the blackboard because they didn't want to see anyone, right? And the last speech of the semester, you wouldn't know that the student had apprehension because their speech was so fluid. And it's so wonderful to see that happen. So that could be you. I have seen that happen. I've seen students who couldn't get through their first speech without crying and swearing because they were crying. And she nicknamed herself Mariah the Crya because of that. By the end of the semester, she emailed me a link of herself a couple of years later, giving a speech to 200 people. And she was so proud of herself. So if Mariah the Crya and the Maya the swearer can get through, so can you. And I just really want to send that message of empowerment out to you because it may seem daunting. It may not seem like something that's possible, but it is. You just have to decide that you're willing to work on that and that that's something that's important to you. And I'm here to support you in that way. And, more people that take this class than not have the same issues as you in this area. So it's not unusual. And it's one of the reasons I really like having an orientation session, is I just want to make people feel comfortable and know that they're in the right place. You may feel like you're not, you're in the right place. This is one of the reasons I'd encourage you to come to the live speeches, because those are the places where I can tailor my feedback more specifically to each student. So I've had students who've had stuttering issues. I've had students who've had, what we call verbal disfluencies, which are like ums and ahs. And I talk about here techniques for dealing with that. Those are so much easier to address in a live setting than it is in a recording. And I can give you feedback in a recording, certainly, but it's less helpful because research shows that the more immediate your feedback, the more effective and helpful it is. So if you have to wait a week between when you've recorded your speech and hearing my feedback, it's less helpful for you than if you give the speech and then immediately we're able to. And that's the other thing, is that as a class, we're all going to be working on giving feedback. We're going to learn how to listen to speeches as well as give them. And it really does help you become a better communicator if you're better at listening. And it makes you understand that part of the skill we're learning in this class isn't just giving speeches, it's also listening to them. Now, having said that, 50% of the class has nothing to do with public speaking. Okay, so I know that I'm talking a lot about public speaking because that's the issue people usually think about when they think about this class. They're like, I have to do speeches. I want to encourage you to remember that 50% of the class has nothing to do with speeches. It has to do with listening. It has to do with understanding verbal communication, understanding nonverbal communication. It has to do with understanding self-awareness and perception. So there's a lot of the class that does not have to do with public speaking. Every week, we've organized it in the following way. It's very linear. So if you scroll, you're going to scroll from week 1, week 2. I'm not telling you when to work. I'm not telling you how to work. All I'm doing is telling you this is what's due by Friday. If you're someone who has a weird schedule and you know they're going to be on vacation 1 week, you're more than encouraged to work ahead. So if that's something that works for you, feel free. I would encourage you to do that within reason. There are certain things that build on each other. So one of the areas I would not encourage you to do way ahead of time is your speeches, because you're going to learn how to outline, you're going to learn how to organize, so that kind of builds up to the speech. But every week we have discussion forums. Week 1, we have 2. We have one that you're introducing yourselves to everybody, and another one that you're talking about public speaking. And in most cases, the discussion forums also require you to do some sort of reading and or watch some videos. So discussion forum 2, you'll see you're expected to watch 2 videos, this Amy Cuddy video, and then this video as well, this Christine Goiter video on speaking with confidence. So the first speech you're giving in this class, that is an icebreaker speech. I have some sample speeches. I'd love it for you to watch them. So here's one. This is a sample icebreaker speech by Mari. 2 minutes, super short. You just tell a story. That's really the goal of the speech. I don't want you to look at it like a laundry list of, hi, I'm so-and-so, I have 5 cats, I have a brother, you know. I don't want you to do that. I want you to think about it like I'm telling a story. And you're an expert on you, so you can tell a story in whatever capacity you want and whatever kind of story you think helps the class get to know you better. There's no research. This is a very low stakes assignment. This is one thing to test to see, you know, does your camera work? And also your audio is working. It's kind of just making sure you know how to do it. Everybody needs to watch 4 classmates' icebreaker speeches and comment on them and give feedback. And that is the very first speech. So if you would like to, you know, get thinking about that, here are some suggestions of the different topics you can have. Okay. And that week there is also the reflection on icebreaker speeches. The very last page of the syllabus has all of the dates. So I'm going to scroll down to the very end of the syllabus. You'll see this is right here is a snapshot of the semester. And I've highlighted in red, you can see all the speaking assignments. So you can kind of get a sense of like when things are due. That, you know, if some circumstance comes up and you're unable to, if it's 12:01, honestly, the due date's still there. I'm not going to like stress out over a minute or 2 if it's a little late. And if you found that for some reason, you know, it's been a tough week and you can't get it done, you want to get it done by Saturday, that's fine. On a case-by-case basis, just let me know what's going on, and I'm more than flexible about that. My biggest concern is when you have weeks go by and you are just perpetually late, then I will start deducting some points for late submission. Please don't put yourself in the position of thinking, oh, I'm not ready for my speech on Wednesday. I'll go ahead and record this on my own. But then you didn't go ahead and actually find an audience. You think that that audience is just going to magically appear. And so then you end up recording your speech to nobody. It's just to you. You'll lose 10 points. And it's in the syllabus. I say this, you have to have an audience or you will lose 10 points. And that's a full letter grade. So you need to have an audience. It's really important you have a live audience for your speech. And I mean, people have gotten their brothers, sisters, family, whatever. I don't care who those people are, as long as they understand English, because your speech will be in English. And as long as, you know, they're over the age of 10 or 12. I don't want you giving your speech to a bunch of toddlers or dogs. You could give it to your coworkers, even if you think they're dogs. I will not think they're dogs, so you're okay. I've had people give their speech at the top of a forklift before. So, you know, trust me. I had somebody who was like, I can't find an audience. They went to Target in the garden center and they found, this is before COVID. And they're like, come around, I have a speech to give. I'm like, that's brave. I need them to be present and show that they're present at the beginning and the end of the speech. And I'll tell you that I can tell, I have ways of telling when you don't have an audience and you think you know, oh, you think you're being so smart, like pretending to have an audience. I can tell. And I'm not going to tell you what the tells are because then you'll work around those and I'll be like, oh, yeah. Here's my favorite story about somebody pretending to have an audience. They had a whole bunch of people. And so what I want you to do, if you're going to have them live, I want you to pan your camera to them to show that they're there. And then you can set the camera up to you. Please don't give the speech to the camera if there's a live audience in the room, right? Because that's really weird. Like, why would you be giving the speech to the audience, the camera, and the audience is over there? So usually try to set up the camera in some ways so like the camera is maybe somebody in the audience is holding the camera, or you have the camera maybe with a computer, like on a bunch of books to the side. It's okay if it's to the side. But my favorite story I was telling you about somebody sneaking out was they had a bunch of people watching, and they're like, they filmed them and then they turned the camera around to show them and they set it up. I saw all 4 of the people walk out of the room, like sneak out of the room, because there was a mirror and it showed them all leaving. And I was like, oh my gosh, that is too hilarious. The person gives a speech to nobody. I'm like, eh. Don't do that. All right. So thanks everyone for coming. Those of you who are watching online, please make sure you submit the quiz. Congratulations, you made it. But welcome to the class, and I look forward to spending the semester with you.